Next up on the Cosmic News Network, First Contact with Joshua Putt.
Good morning, Earthlings. Welcome back to First Contact Radio. How you doing today? Hope you're doing well. Let's get on with it. This is the second day of the week of springtime, third day of spring, but second weekday of spring. It's the 22nd, and we have one lonely old aspect taking place right here. And that happened just a few minutes ago, 7:46 a.m., in which Chiron, the wounded healer, is opposite the moon sign, which is Virgo. Okay, so if we take a look over here at our moon sign, okay, here's our moon right here in Virgo, and we look directly across from it, and here is Chiron. So we have this, the Chiron, the healer, the wounded healer, is in the house of Pisces. So the woundedness, the feelings that we're feeling of being woundedness are all in the areas of our feelings, the emotions. Remember yesterday I said how, sometimes emotions can be very death-like, and well, that's kind of the process. So we're going through this change here. We got the healing that needs to come up through the emotions, and right across from it we have a healer. The hermit is also the healer amongst other things. Heals through bringing wisdom, the wisdom to help, shine light upon the problems or the feelings that are, causing the distress, whatever that might be. Okay, and then at 10:51 a.m. we go void of course, where we will be the entire day all the way until the next moon sign, which is just after midnight, 12:23 a.m., when tomorrow we hit a full moon and all. Okay, so there you have that aspect. Here's what's going on with the moon today. We're just about to that full moon, 99.3% of the way there. We'll be at that full moon tomorrow. On the Jewish calendar, today is 12 Adar 2. 12 Adar 2, the daily thought for today is, you're catching it all live, it's just happening here, folks. Beautifully absurd. Beautifully absurd. The world is absurd. Ugly absurd. To repair ugly absurdity, you can't just be normal. You need an alternative absurdity. A beautiful absurdity. We call it divine madness. Divine madness, yes, that could be something quite useful to us these days. Okay, second day of the wave spell of the theme of the human, all about free will. It's the second day, second kin, which is the Skywalker. So today implies the idea of exploration. Guided by our life force energy, our survival instinct, hidden power is the star shining bright within us. The challenge for today right here is our dreams, intuition, subconscious, whereas the idea of life and death, that's our challenge today, looking to understand what is that bridge between the worlds. On spaceweather.com, solar wind is currently at 423.2 kilometers per second. Planetary K index, quiet at a 3. Quiet at a 3. We are going to be feeling solar wind from this area today, as we were notified the other day about that. And then it says on the 27th we'll be getting hit with some more from this area. M-class flare possibility, 5%, X-class 1. Geomagnetic storm activity seems to be increasing slightly, going from 20 to 25 in the mid-latitudes. High latitude, it is jumping up from 25 to 35. And finally, looking up at the sky tonight, Jupiter is nice and bright out there. A nice bright view the other night. Now we just have the moon. We're not going to see the Jupiter like we did yesterday. Just going to see the big old almost full moon. Full moon tonight and a perumbral lunar eclipse. This is a weak eclipse with the moon's southern side skimming only through the pale outer fringe of Earth's shadow, the penumbra. Sky watchers in western North America will see it before dawn Wednesday morning. The eclipse is deepest at 4:47 a.m., 5:47 a.m. Mountain Daylight Time. Okay, and this is penumbra. It may be, but it counts towards your life tally of lunar eclipses that have occurred. Fainter penumbra shading may be detectable for nearly an hour before or after the midtime. Okay, so there you go. Cosmic weather. We got an eclipse coming up. We have a full moon coming up. Lots of activity going on in the stars. And of course, all of the stars, the planets, all of the effect of that affects us. So as we are aware of that, it helps us to understand how to maneuver through this thing called life. All right, UFO news is up next. Let's get to it.
This is the UFO News with Joshua Poet.
All right, Dirk, thank you very much. Today I have 5 sightings. First one takes us up to the sun. Here we have another NASA image. Something bizarre looking out at the sun. Definitely doesn't look like it's something just random. It looks something a bit more shapely than just that. It says this UFO is caught by StreetCap1 of YouTube. Clearly shows a craft leaving the sun or sucking energy from the sun. If this is the latter, then we should worry. Sucking away the sun might leave by little, won't leave the Earth with much in a million years or so. I sure hope it's just moving away. StreetCap1, who found this, says, even I am blown away by this. It's like they are saying, hello, we're here. I've seen this before 3 or 4 times now. Okay, very good. And we have another object. This one is between the Earth and the Sun. This was a week earlier. And you could see our object in question. Okay, this was also StreetCap1. Catches a lot of things. Here we had a different one. So a moment ago he just said he often catches these and sees these things, and there's another example of it. Again, doesn't look like it's just a random rock flying by, does it? Looks like something a bit more structured, created by somebody. Okay, UFO filmed over Hanover, Germany, March 21st. Here's a new video of a bright orb that was hovering in the night sky above Hanover on the river Leine, the capital of the federal state of Lower Saxony. This happened March 21st. Okay, so it's right here. The camera's jiggling around quite a bit, but you can see generally it's in this area here, right in the middle of the screen. There you go. Obviously, the capture just came at a moment when they had their phone ready. They had a tripod. If you're out looking, have a tripod. That way you can get shots a little bit more still than that. Videos of UFOs, alien news, crop circles, flying saucers, Area 51. What is this? This was just a random page that I don't need, so there you go. Okay. The Plejaren, you've heard of them. Nordic white aliens, Billy Meier. Big case. Let me give you a little rundown of this here. Billy Meier UFO case with the Plejarens and the Nordic aliens. The Billy Meier case is one of the oldest and most controversial cases on record. There are so many aspects to this case, it is extremely hard to sort out the fact from the fiction. I present this case to you in an effort to provide information and detail on some of the best documented cases on record. I have provided some video information as well as links to Meier's famous photographs. It's up to each person to decide how they feel about this, how they feel about the famous Billy Meier case. Okay, Billy Edward Albert Meier was born February 3rd, 1937, as a citizen of Switzerland who claims to be a UFO contactee and prophet. He is also the source of the many controversial UFO photographs, which he states are evidence of his encounters. Meier reports regular contact with the extraterrestrials who impart spiritual and physiological wisdom, philosophical wisdom. He describes the Plejarens, aliens from the Pleiades, as humanoid Nordic aliens. Born a farmer in the town of Bulak in the Swiss lowlands, Edward Billy Meier claimed that the first extraterrestrial accounts occurred in 1942 at the age of 5 with an elderly extraterrestrial human man named Svath. Contacts with Svath lasted until 1953. From 53 to 64, Meier's contacts continued with an extraterrestrial woman named Asket. Meier says that after the 11-year break, contacts resumed again, beginning in 1975 on January 28th with extraterrestrial human woman named Samaje, the granddaughter of Svath. In his teens, Meier joined the French Foreign Legion and says that he soon left and returned home. He traveled extensively around the world pursuing spiritual exploration, covering some 42 countries over 12 years. In 1965, he lost his arm in a bus accident in Turkey. In 1966, he met and married a Greek woman, Calliope, with whom he has 3 children. The nickname Billy came by the way of the American friend who thought Meier's cowboy style of dress reminded him of Billy the Kid. This anecdote was told by Meier himself in an interview with Bob Zanotti of Swiss Radio International. Meier has accumulated a large collection of controversial photographs showing alleged spaceships, as well as alleged extraterrestrials, humanoids called the Plejaren. Meier says that the Plejaren gave him permission to photograph and film their beam ships in order to produce some of the evidence for extraterrestrial visitation. Meier claims are disputed by UFO skeptics as well as some UFO enthusiasts. Many of Meier's proponents and believers exist among UFO enthusiasts, and his evidence has been seen through increased exposure to the efforts of the American Representative Michael Horn, who has appeared on popular late-night paranormal programs such as Coast to Coast AM. Beginning in 1975, Meier says he began his official contacts, official in that evidence was to be provided publicly, unlike earlier contacts, communicating both directly face-to-face and by telepathy with a core group of Plejaren, or Irans, as he also referred to them, who gave them the names Ptah, Samaji, Quetzal, and Plejara, among other. According to Meier himself in the video documentary Contact, he says his first contact was with the extraterrestrials began on January 28, 1975. These visitors reportedly hail from the Plejaris star system, which is beyond the Pleiades and in a dimension that is a traction of a second in the future from our own, an alternate timeline. These Plejaren have allegedly afforded Meier a more interesting sampling of evidence than denied from the most such encounters, including highly detailed photography videos, multi-toned sound recordings, the temporary use of a weapon machine which he deployed for trial on a nearby tree, and metal alloy samples. Meier claimed his visitors charged him with certain information and consciousness-raising tasks. As he undertook the mission, he met with a great deal of scorn and derision, in addition to, according to the Center, 21 assassination attempts. Some of these were allegedly initiated by hostile extraterrestrial entities and subsequently defeated largely through the intervention of his Plejaren friends. Meier was uncomfortable with the megalomaniacal associations some would attach his role as representative, such as the use of the term prophet, but he understood the effort nonetheless. In 1975, Meier established the freely Intermessengerschaft für Grants und Gestaltenweisen und Ufologiestudien, or Free Community of the Interest for the Fringe and Spiritual Sciences and Ufological Studies, otherwise known, shorter version, FIGU, a nonprofit organization for the benefit of researchers into this field and headquartered at the Samaji Silver Star Center. All right, so a lot more to the article. We have pictures of Billy's that he had taken, some really good pictures. Okay. The conclusion here, as stated at the beginning of this point, this case is highly controversial. It has staunch believers and has staunch detractors, so you might be your own judge. And like other cases, this one has a great deal of information available to the public. If you feel further research is necessary, you'll be able to find a lot of available resources. A good starting point would be some of the links below. All right, so there you go. If you're interested in the UFO phenomena, the study of Billy Meier is really fascinating. He has a tremendous collection of pictures, lots of pictures indeed. So check it out if you want to know more about Billy. The links are available at firstcontactradio.com. Otherwise, I'm jumping away. I'll be back. Here we go.
What if our government was responsible for some of the greatest crimes against this nation? Would you really want to know? These are big questions, but these questions deserve answers. It's time to demand the truth.
People shouldn't be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of them.
9/11 was an inside job. Kennedy was killed by the CIA. Jimmy Carter saw UFO. Answers to secrets you need to know. So wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. The evidence is overwhelming. Step past your fear, take a look. Illuminati lies keep growing, what they're losing from your eyes. And wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. What would our founding fathers say if they were alive today? Must be turning in their graves. Redcoats are coming, big brother's watching. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. What if I land and two if I see? And I and the opposite shore will be ready to ride and spread the alarm through every Middlesex village and farm. Whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it. When a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Patriots arise. It's time to demand the truth.
All right. All right. Time to demand the truth. You know, that seems to be what's going on in the world to some degree or another. So that's good. That's good. First of all, I just want to take a moment just to kind of send some thoughts and prayers out to the people of Belgium. I don't know if you've heard it or not, but there was an attack over there that occurred. bombing that occurred at an airport. A couple bombs went off. 34 people, as far as one report I saw, have been killed thus far, and they're still trying to assess all the damage. So thoughts and prayers go out with the people of Belgium, where these places and where this event is happening. You know, this is one of these incidents where you have an area where you've heard politicians, you've heard Donald Trump getting a lot of flack because he talked about how this area where the bombings occurred was a hotbed for jihadist activity, and people really gave him a load of grief for that. And now here we have a incident that occurred, and well, who is involved? Jihadists, people that were on jihad, people that were involved in part of Islam. I mean, it's a sad state of affairs, my friend. You know, here's the problem that we have. We have lots of different colors on the planet, reds and whites and yellows and browns. We have different groups of individuals and religions. From Christianity to Catholicism to Judaism to Islam, Buddhism, Hinduism. We have all of these different things going on there. And sometimes I think we think that all of these groups of people are great. No one causes any problems in these groups. And so we go through life and we often seem surprised by that. Fact of the matter is, each one of these groups has problem makers in it. And usually the problem makers are a very small percentage of that group. Maybe only 10%, maybe 15. They don't make up the whole group. So part of the issue that goes on when we bring things up and the issue of Islam is talked about, people say, well, Islam's a religion of peace. Well, that may be. And there may be 75% of those in the Islam faith that are peaceful. It's not the peaceful ones that are of concern. It's the 25% or the 15% that are the extremists. That's the problem. Same with the whites, same with the blacks, same with the browns or the yellows. Same with any group we have. It's always a small minority that's causing the problems. And why is it that these small minorities get to be so problematic? Usually it's because we don't speak out when we see these atrocities. We seem to give our okay to them. And because we do, they continue to happen. So we need to be aware that there are members of each group that give a bad name to the whole group. So one of the things I think we need to do is we need to stop using labels like all. All of this group is this way because of a small percentage. That no longer applies because we understand that not everybody in a group is going to be bad. And so if we start to use and observe that, then maybe we might be able to get a little closer to pinpointing the problem. And even though the amount of troublemakers in each group is small, statistics show us that some groups are more problematic than the others. Some of that small group causes more problems than some of the other groups. Again, there's many different factors that go into this. We just need to be aware so we don't ostracize whole groups of individuals for things that happened. While at the same time, we have to take care of the problem. So going back to the problem with the Islamic terrorists, you have many peaceful Muslims saying that they're peaceful. That's fine. But there's 1.2 billion Muslims. 1.2 billion. So let's take 10% of that. That's what, 100 million? 100 million that are potential terrorists, extremists, and that's just a small percent. That's 10%. If the numbers go higher, then there's a higher percentage. So that's what we have to look at and understand, that we need to be aware that small groups of individuals within us can cause a great deal of damage and change the way that the public perceives that group of individuals. So what we need to do is we need to find a way to teach each other if we see other members of our particular community stepping out of line and we have an opportunity to communicate with them, I think that we need to do that. And sometimes it seems like we have to be within the community itself. Like, you know, blacks aren't going to listen to whites, whites aren't going to listen to blacks, Muslims aren't going to listen to Christians or Catholics or Jews, or on and on and on. You know, Mexicans aren't going to listen to the different races or the groups of the Asians or whatever. So we need to deal with ourselves. Blacks need to pull each other aside and talk to each other. Whites need to talk to each other. Mexicans with each other. Asians with each other. We need to be able to communicate amongst ourselves within the groups and find out where the anger is. Because that's really what's going on. There's a lot of anger in the world. The anger is being expressed. We're seeing the anger being expressed. Here in the States, we're seeing this political process, and what a sham this is. The cheating that's going on. I mean, look at the GOP party. If you're watching what's going on, they're literally fighting themselves, and they are making every effort to change the way in which the political process is perceived. Now, many people are surprised because they're hearing these particular members of the GOP come out and say that people don't select the president, that it's the electors that do. And people are getting upset by this. Fact of the matter is, they're right, and it's been that way for a long while. So if Americans are just getting on board with that idea, well, it's glad that you're on board. Welcome to the party, pal. But this is how it's been for a while. So we need just to be aware of the process in place, because all this while we've been thinking one thing when there's another system that is at work. And the powers that know how the system works, well, they're using it to their advantage. And they're trying to make changes and adjustments. You know, the latest thing they're trying to do is they have this rule. It's called Rule 40. And Rule 40 says that you have to have a certain number of states that you win during the primaries in order to be considered an actual nominee. Well, the number was 5 at the 2012 election process. However, Ron Paul got 7 of them. And so he was now eligible to be a nominee and therefore be part of the convention process. However, right there on the floor in the convention, they decided to change that, and they said, nope, the requirement is not 5 states, it is actually now 8 states. And so Ron Paul then did not get an opportunity to receive a nomination, even though he had qualified, but because they had changed the rules after the fact on the floor, he was screwed out of that. So here we are all these years later, and now they're wanting to rewrite the rules again. And the latest statement is that, oh, the rules get written every time there's one of these conventions. So even though there was the rule last time for 8 nominees, doesn't apply because they're going to start over and rewrite the rules as they go for this 2016 cycle. So, you know, they're trying to pull a fast one on the American people. And the American people, well, you know, I understand the anger. I absolutely do. I understand why things are so volatile, because we've been suppressing this information and all of these feelings for a long, long time. Doesn't matter who the presidential candidate was. Whoever was going to be the person that was going to step up and propose some of the restrictions or put our foot down against some of the corruption, that person was going to be the brunt of the anger no matter who it is. And just imagine putting yourself in the position of these politicians these days, feeling the anger of the American people. It's got to be, you know, quite an experience, and whoever is up there obviously needs to be able to have a great deal of patience and fortitude throughout this process, because it's pretty brutal. It's pretty brutal. And we'll see where it goes. Today's another big day with the primaries. We'll see how things evolve, and we'll see if the anger subsides any. And, you know, it's weird world we're living in, my friends. So as we go through this world, you know, I took this time off. I really spent a lot of time considering all that we had studied up to that point, which was the Nag Hammadi. And to me, that's a big, big piece of the puzzle because, as I've said, this particular story that we're in is not the real. We don't know the whole story. We know the story that starts off with God created the world, the heavens and the earth, and God created humankind, and on and on and on. That's the story we know. But we never get to the point of saying and questioning and wondering where this being came, this God, where this God came from that created all of what we know as life here. If we understood that this was the fallen one who was cast out of another realm, it might give us a different perspective on things. So therein is the first challenge, that we are living in a world created by the fallen one. And the error that occurred, the original sin, didn't occur with humankind, but it occurred with the fallen one itself. And so that fallen one in error then created humankind in order to trap God. Trap God within the skin suit so it could be subservient to this being, because this being didn't want to be anything other than God. But he wasn't. He wasn't the be all end all. And so as times evolved and as we've understood the stories of religion, our ideas of God have been very convoluted because we have different images of God, angry God, loving God, this kind of God, that kind of God. Our ideas, and when people hear the word God, sometimes people get really turned off. I was reading an article about here in America and how people have really turned away from God in so many ways. And polls are showing that people aren't praying like they used to, or they're not attending any sort of spiritual process whatsoever. Most people are just going as if none of that occurs or matters. And therein lies the problem, because we have been so turned off to this idea of God that we now are pushing away the very thing that should be helping us, but we're pushing it away because we've been misinformed about what it is. If we understood that, like the force, that the spirit flows through all things, that all things are animated by this spirit, and that this spirit provides us with all that we need, if we understood that and we worked on a daily basis on honing those particular skills, we would be in a whole different place in the world than we are now, where we have all of these battles on what we can do versus what we can't do. And this is where it gets into the archons. Yesterday I went over the archons. We talked about the archons. A couple of weeks ago we ended up with that. And the archons are a very important piece of the puzzle, because once Yaldabaoth, Yahweh, before created humankind, he created for himself his followers, the archons. Yaldabaoth, or Yahweh, was the chief archon, but he created many other archons. And all of this archonic influence that is going on from all of these creations, this is what affects us, because these energies have gone out and branched out into the physical realm. They affect politics, they affect banking, they affect world religions and governments. Everything is affected by these archonic energies. So what do we do? Do we go through life as it's a random series of events and we just get pushed around like a pinball in a machine? We could do that. That's one way to go. Another way to go is to understand what is going on in this process. And that's the aim of what it is that, with the show and this information, is to see and understand how we move through this. Now, I'm going to go over some stuff here from the Tree of Life, because the Tree of Life is mentioned quite often. It's a very prominent piece of the story of the book of Genesis. The Tree of Life is the place where we are told that humankind fell. The reason we're told it fell is because they ate from the tree when God said, "Don't eat from the tree." However, they weren't told the truth, because God also told them if they ate from the tree they would die. Didn't happen. So they were deceived by the being who we are told is God. And then this being got upset with them when he found out and kicked them out of the garden. This tree was obviously very important, that they had such significance about it, and that by disobeying whatever was set forth, that they were punished. This tree provided an opportunity to see life, and what it does, it allows us to understand the material world a bit better. You see, the archons, Yahweh, they weren't creating something that they didn't know. They were able to make counterfeits, copies of what it is they did know, or they were able to manipulate what was already here. So whatever systems are in place, whether it be astrology or tarot, Kabbalistic studies, mind, whatever the studies are that are in place, they're all there to teach us how energy moves. And the more that we have all the pieces to the puzzle, the more we understand. However, part of the problem when we go back to the story of the fallen angels is we're told that they taught humankind the various arts and sciences and war and all of these things. Part of the problem is, in some cases, they taught humankind incomplete sciences. So when you go through and you have a science and you don't have all the pieces of the puzzle, the results you get are a bit skewed. Or sometimes if you give somebody too much information, it blows their circuits. There's another thing that was going on. Humankind was getting more information they were ready for, and therefore they were not responsible with how they use the information. And there we have problems that occur from there. You see, we have to be ready to deal with the energies. If we understand that everything is energy, and that every day we're going to be dealing with energy, then the thing that we should practice doing is practice dealing with more and more energy. If we don't practice this, if we don't understand, then we just get run over when we try to capture a large amount of energy or get in the way of a large amount that's working with us. And this is what happens in all of these different various practices throughout life. You know, the things we say, the things that we do, they create. And if we don't understand what we're creating, then there's a problem. So we need to be more aware. And so the way we become aware is we look at the world around us and we observe what is out in the world around us, and to see how that helps us to understand the world within us. Remember, when we're shining this light outward, we're like a projector. And the movie that is being played in the world around us is the movie that is being shined from inside of us. Things only change when we allow the world to reflect itself on us. Then it's the opposite way that it should be, because life is emanating, flowing forth from the higher realms, from the immortal realms, and it's flowing forth into the material realms, and it continues to flow forth. And as it's flowing forth, we have an opportunity to participate in that flowing forth, while at the same time observing and just seeing how it works with our lives if we just, observe. So what we have here is a site called the Builders of the Adytum. I picked this one here because this is a wealth of information here for you. Builders of the Adytum. Adytum is the place where the holies of holy resides. This would be the inner temple. And so over here, if we click on the link of resources, it takes you to this page over here where there's this thing called the pattern on the trestle board. And the pattern on the trestle board really helps to understand this whole system right here. Because what we have down here is the tree of life. And the tree of life is showing us how we operate in duality. How we operate in duality. Okay? Because that's what we've got when we step into and eat from the tree of life. Instead of the oneness of all things, we see all things for what they are. We see the pieces of the puzzle. We see the Wizard of Oz behind the curtain. So this is showing us how things work. And these 11 phrases right here, or 10 phrases, are phrases that summarize it very nicely. So we start off at the top with the crown, Kether. Kether the crown. This is where energy flows into. But it flows in from someplace, and the someplace that it flows into is represented here by all of the black space. This is the Ein Sof. So from the Ein Sof, we have the phrase, all the power that ever was or will be is here now, indicating the true source of all life exists at this moment. All we have to do is tap into it. It has always been here. It will always be here. It's here now. As that energy manifests down into the material world, number one, here Keth of the Crown says, I am a center of expression for the primal will to good, which eternally creates and sustains the universe. Moving over here to this sphere. Through me, its unfailing wisdom takes form in thought and word. Moving over to the next one, understanding. Filled with understanding of its perfect law, I am guided moment by moment along the path of liberation. 4. From the exhaustless riches of its limitless substance, I draw all things needful, both spiritual and material. 5. I recognize the manifestation of the undeviating justice in all the circumstances of my life. 6. Right in the middle there. In all things great and small, I see the beauty of divine expression. 7. Right here, living from that will, supported by its unfailing wisdom and understanding, mine is the victorious life. 8. I look forward with confidence to the perfect realization of the eternal splendor of the limitless light. 9. In thought and word and deed, I rest my life from day to day upon the sure foundation of eternal being. And 10. The kingdom of spirit is embodied in my flesh. This right here is a summary of all that energy that manifests itself in this physical world. Remember, fire, water, air, earth. We live on the earth. The earth is a product of the fire, the water, the air. Ideas sprinkled with emotions expressed as words. And throughout the stories of the Bible, what are we told? We hear the word of God. A word was spoken. So an idea arose, fire. That idea was filled with emotions, and that emotional idea was expressed as a word, or non-verbally as an action. And these three different things combined together create earth. So here down in the earth, if we just think about only being on the earth, that's okay. We move through life, and we only see the earthly things. We don't really connect ourselves with anything else. But if we're aware that on the earth, that there's also fire, water, and air that are happening all around us and have been happening that got us to where we are, it helps us to understand, because we know that we are connected to something bigger than who we are. That this isn't the end of the journey, that this is simply a part of the process. So by looking at this pattern of the trestle board, this is a really helpful way to understand, because what you have here is you have three pillars. The pillar right in the middle is the pillar of equilibrium. You have a pillar of severity and a pillar of mercy. Okay, the pillar of mercy over here, pillar of severity over here. Think of Goldilocks and the three bears. Too cold, too hot, just right. What you have here is a combination of all of these energies balancing themselves out. Now, if you recall, if we look at the principles of Hermetic philosophy, shows us here this principle of polarity. Okay? Principle of polarity. That means things have opposite poles. So the principle of polarity is telling us about opposite poles, and look what we have here. We have opposite poles. We have wisdom on one end, understanding on the other. Mercy and severity. Victory, emotion, splendor, glory. Okay, we move back and forth. So the whole objective in all of that we're doing in life is we move constantly from the top of the tree of life to the bottom, walking that middle path. But from time to time, we do find ourselves off on the extremes. And if we know how to get back to the middle path, which is following the inroads here, then we're never going to get lost because we always know how to get back to where we need to be. Each one of these circles here is a classroom. Each one of these classrooms, something is learned. These are the lessons that are basically learned in these classrooms here. The paths between these classrooms are the 22 major arcana of the tarot. If you to click on this little button here that says Gematria Calculator, it takes you to another site here, which is Boda in Europe, and this is the opening page here. And if you click on highlights of the tarot, it gives you all the list of all the cards here. But the one I want to show you is the tarot correspondence. Here we have all 22 of the major cards, the color associations with them, the musical note that they represent or represents them, the Hebrew letter associated with each one of these, the meaning, the gematria of it, the number value, the astrological relationship, and then, of course, the alchemy. Lots of information that applies to each one of these. So if you are using this to make it practical, what you have here is you have a series of worlds from the immortal realms at the top to the mortal realms at the bottom, the non-physical to the physical. And as we move down through the tree of life, we move from one form down into the next. And this tree of life has multiple layers to it. It has a layer that's all the fire layer, one that's the layer of water, one that's the layer of air, one that's the layer of earth. So there's like 4 floors in here, if this was a building. And each floor has these 10 offices in it. So you have 40 altogether, 40 associations to the tree of life. And so if you just look at the tree, and if you understand what's going on in life, and you can kind of pinpoint it to what you're feeling or experiencing, you can use this symbol here just to see what is the path from where you're at back to the heart, back to the center. And you look at what that path is here, and you find out which one of those particular lessons, and you can find out what that correspondence is, what that lesson is. Okay? So we can get more into this another time. But that's kind of the basics of, what I thought would be helpful to know right now. So how do we apply this, and why is this important? Because we live in this reality that is not the be-all end-all reality. It's a counterfeit of the higher realms. It's a reality that was created by a fallen being, but through the power and the love of the Christ, as expressed by the Father and the Mother, we have the opportunity to rise from this situation, to rise up out of a situation where we are in these animalistic, these beast bodies. We get to rise with the spirit in us to be something more spectacular than what we were maybe created to be. Because we were created, if we go through and understand the stories, as a slave race. We weren't created for anything other than that. So if we look throughout time and we look at the issue of slavery, slavery can actually be traced all the way back to the very beginning, all the way back to the Garden of Eden, all the way back. We can trace slavery. So when people are complaining about slavery in this day and age, well, I understand. There have been problems. All peoples have experienced slavery. All colors and all races and all different groups have experienced slavery. So I think if we can learn to have compassion with each other and understand we've been through these lessons, Nobody likes them. Nobody likes what we've had to go through. And if we can kind of look at things from a different perspective, I believe we can make the changes we need. But it starts with each one of us. We need to be able to decipher where we are, what's going on with us, how we use the energy. And if we do that, I think we have a chance, because that's what this is about. It's about seeing if we can rise from the ashes, if we can rise from all of the things that are obstructing us and deceiving us and distracting us. If we can rise above that, just imagine how awesome that would be. And we know how to do it because that's what Yeshua came to show us how to do. And Yeshua was one of many teachers that brought information, pieces of the puzzle. So if we follow the examples of those who came before us, I think we're going to do all right. All right, here's an article here from In5D. It says, "What is meant by dreaming the world into being?" by Dr. Alberto Villoldo. Whether you realize or not, we are dreaming the world into being, although most people have lost the ability to guide the dream and are a result at the mercy of the collective nightmare. The shaman lives in a dream, but not the kind of dream that belongs in the domain of sleep. Shamans understand the waking dream and can change the dream by changing their relationship with the luminous strands that make up the energetic realm. This is how creation happens. The Aborigines of Australia believe that it was the dream time that the world was created, and they follow the dream lines when you go on a vision quest. For the shaman of the Americas, the task is to dream with their eyes open, to envision the possible before they envision the probable. It's not a fantasy or hallucination, but rather the ultimate nature of reality itself, where one can actually steer and guide the dream. Okay, so it says the dream time, the creative matrix, does not exist in the place outside of us, but rather within us. It infuses all matter and energy, connecting every creature, rock, star, every ray of light, bit of cosmic dust. For the Earth Keepers, dreaming reality is not only an ability, but a duty, one we must perform with grace and love, so our grandchildren will inherit a world of peace and abundance. Okay, at the end of here, last article, last paragraph says, "You can have your wounds or you can have your glory. You can live the life of a victim, burdened by the traumas of your past, or you can live the life of a hero, but you can't do both. If you want to feel empowered, you need to make a conscious decision to dream a sacred dream and practice courage." All right, here's our channeled message for today. Comes to us from Quan Yin. Here we go.
Make Life Fun, Quan Yin, March 21st, 2016, channeled by Daniel Scranton. It is I, Quan Yin. If you really want to exercise your freedom, then find new ways of doing things that you have done many times before. Take liberties with your creative license. The easiest way for you to infuse more joy into your lives is to make the mundane tasks of everyday living more joyous, more fun, more playful. And you have the ability to do that. It is a choice. You can choose to see the same old task as being tedious and mind-numbing, or you can see it as an opportunity for creative expression and for the expression of who you are. You may discover that something you once believed was a chore can actually be the most enjoyable part of your day. So how do you make it happen? How do you make this shift? You start by intending for the experience you are about to have to be more joyous, and then you ask for inspiration and ideas. And then you allow those ideas to come to you. Once you begin to put the ideas into practice, you will find that it has a snowball effect. Suddenly, more inspiration comes to you and the activity becomes more and more fun. I suggest that you do this with a friend and also by yourself. Especially, ask the fairies for help. They are so gifted at making everything more fun. Become your fairy self, access your fairy energy, and make your lives more creative, more expressive, and more joyous, because that is the life you want to lead. And you are the ones deciding which version of your own life you experience. I am Quan Yin, and I hold you in my heart.
Very nice message from Quan. All right, brings us to our meditation for today. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath and exhale. Take another deep breath and exhale again. Another breath. Exhale. Now I just want you to imagine that you are in a movie theater. And you're sitting there getting ready to watch the movie. And you're waiting. And you're waiting. And you're waiting. And no movie shows on the screen. And you look around to see if there is the projectionist, but you don't see anybody. And then you have this voice that speaks to you, tells you that the movie is inside of you. And so you close your eyes for a moment and you focus. And as you do, you imagine this light shining out from you towards the screen. And as it does this, this movie begins to play on the screen. And you realize that the movie of life happens inside of us and then shines out into the world to be seen or acted upon. And so we understand that as we move through life, we need to start with the inside in order to change the outside. For that is the source of this movie of life that we are participating in. So as we go to the world today, let's just observe the world around us. And let's just observe the way in which we are reflecting out to the world that which is inside of us. And let that observation be enough. So let the subconscious mind continue on the journey of observation. And let's bring the conscious mind back to the present moment on the count of 3. 3, coming back to the present moment filled with confidence. 2, coming back to the present moment filled with faith. And 1, coming back to the present moment happy, healthy, and whole. Happy, healthy, and whole. Take another deep breath. Exhale. And open your eyes. All right, my friends, thank you so much for being here today. Just remember, it's all inside what we need to bring out into the world. We simply need to focus and connect because that's the source of our strength. We all have this connection, my friends. We just need to connect. And when we do, and we communicate with each other about all that's going on, we'll realize that we have much more in common than we don't. And once we get there, perhaps that will be the moment of peace that we're all wanting to achieve. That's it for today. I'll be back tomorrow. Have an awesome day. I love you. Keep loving each other, and I'll talk to you soon. Peace. I'm out of here.